Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The ground beneath Bumblebee's seat trembled as the distant rumble of artillery echoed through the ruins of the once bustling city. Smoke billowed from collapsed buildings, and the sky was thick with the smell of burnt metal and ash. Earth had survived countless battles between the Autobots and Decepticons, but the scars were deep, both in the planet and in its people. Bumblebee stood at the edge of a crumbled highway overlooking the ruined skyline. His once bright yellow armor was now scratched and dented, a testament to the many battles he had fought. He scanned the horizon with his glowing blue optics, searching for any sign of life, any sign of hope. "B, you copy." The voice of Arcee crackled over the comm. Loud and clear, Bumblebee replied, turning away from the wreckage. He started moving his servos, whirring as he navigated the debris. "What? Send the status." "We've got a situation," Arcee responded, her tone grim. Wheeljack intercepted a signal. "It's ... It's bad, be real bad." Bumblebee's heart sank as he quickened his pace. The Decepticons had been quiet since their last defeat, retreating into the shadows. But the war wasn't over, and the threat of Megatron's return always loomed like a dark cloud. "I am on my way," Bumblebee said, transforming into his sleek Camaro form. His tires screeched against the cracked pavement as he sped toward the military base where the Autobots had established their temporary command post. The base was a blend of human and Autobot technology, a fortress that stood defiantly amidst the chaos. As Bumblebee rolled up to the entrance, he transformed back into his robot mode, his metallic form towering over the human soldiers stationed at the gate. They saluted him, their faces weary but respectful. Inside, Bumblebee found his team gathered around a large holographic display. Arcee, her agile frame tense with concern, stood next to Wheeljack, whose mechanical fingers were flying over a control panel. Wheeljack greeted him without looking up, his optics locked on the data streaming across the screen. "Well, I've got a serious problem." "What's going on?" Bumblebee asked, stepping closer. Wheeljack punched a few more commands into the panel, and the holographic display flickered to show a countdown timer. It was already ticking down. 72 hours remained. "This," Wheeljack said, pointing at the timer, "is Megatron-sized last gift to us. A countdown device that, once it hits 0, will trigger a chain reaction that'll destroy the entire planet." Bumblebee's optics narrowed. "Megatron's dead. How is this possible?" "You said dead," Arcee agreed. "But he left something behind, a backup plan. And from what we've gathered, this device is buried deep within the Earth's infrastructure. It's not just a bomb, it's connected to the planet's energy grid. If it goes off, it'll use Earth's own energy against it." "And we can just shut it off?" Bumblebee asked, already knowing the answer. Wheeljack shook his head. The system is heavily encrypted. It's not just one device. We've tested several failsafes spread across different locations. Even if we find and disarm the main device, the failsafes will trigger if we don't take them out too. Bumblebee clenched his fists, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "How much time do we have?" 72 hours, Wheeljack said, "and we don't know exactly where the failsafes are yet. We're reworking on it, but we don't have time." Arcee finished, her voice tight with frustration. Bumblebee looked around at his team. They had been through so much already, and now they were facing the impossible once again. But there was no room for doubt, no time for hesitation. "We need to split up," Bumblebee said, his voice firm. "Wheeljack, you keep working on decrypting the system. We need to know where those failsafes are. To see you agree with me, we'll head out to locate the main device." "And the Decepticons," Arcee asked, her optics narrowing. "They are not going to let us do this without a fight," Bumblebee said grimly. "Soundwave's still out there, and he won. You miss an opportunity like that." Arcee nodded, her servos tensing in anticipation. "Let's get moving then." Bumblebee transformed again, and Arcee followed suit, her motorcycle form sleek and swift as she revved up beside him. Together, they tore out of the base, leaving behind the safety of the Autobots' fortress and plunging into the unknown. The cityscape blurred past them as they raced through the streets, their sensors scanning for any signs of Decepticon activity. The air was thick with tension, the weight of the countdown pressing on them with every passing second. As they sped through the city's outskirts, a sudden explosion rocked the ground beneath them. Bumblebee swerved, narrowly avoiding a collapsing building as debris rained down around them. "Decepticons," Arcee shouted, transforming midair and landing gracefully on her feet. Her blasters were already in hand as she fired at the approaching enemy. Bumblebee transformed just in time to catch sight of the Decepticon forces swarming toward them. Leading the charge was none other than Soundwave, his sleek, dark form cutting through the chaos with precision. Bumblebee, Soundwave, X, cold, mechanical voice echoed through the comms. You cannot stop the inevitable. We'll see about that, Bumblebee growled, drawing his plasma cannon and firing a series of shots at the approaching Decepticon. The battle erupted in a frenzy of blaster fire and explosion. Every started between the enemy lines, her movements quick and lethal as she took down Decepticon after Decepticon. Bumblebee held his ground, his cannon blazing as he faced off against Soundwave. "You're too late," Soundwave intoned, his voice devoid of emotion. "The countdown cannot be stopped." Bumblebee dodged a blast of energy and fired back, but Soundwave was too fast, evading the shot with ease. "We'll see about that," Bumblebee replied, determination fueling his every move. But even as he fought, Bumblebee knew that time was slipping away. The Decepticons weren't taught the real threat. It was a ticking clock, counting down to the destruction of everything they had fought to protect. "We need to move," Bumblebee called out to RC. We waste time here." RC nodded, launching herself into the air and delivering a final blow to the nearest Decepticon. "Let's Sega." They broke away from the fight, their engines roaring as they raced toward the coordinates Wheeljack had sent them. The city fell away behind them, but the sense of urgency only grew stronger with each passing second. As they neared the location of the main device, Bumblebee sensors picked up something troubling, an enormous energy signature coming from beneath the ground. Whatever Megatron had set in motion, it was more powerful than they had anticipated. "We were here," Bumblebee said as they arrived at the entrance to an underground facility, its heavy steel doors sealed shut. "How do we get in?" Farkas asked, her optics scanning the structure. Bumblebee stepped forward, his fists clenched. "We knocked." With a powerful punch, he shattered the doors, the metal crumpling beneath his strength. Inside, the air was thick with a hum of energy, and the temperature dropped as they descended into the facility. "This place feels wrong," Ars muttered, her surface twitching as they moved deeper into the complex. Bumblebee's optics scanned the room ahead, and there it was, the countdown device, glowing ominously in the center of the chamber. It was massive, wires and conduits stretching from it like veins, connecting it to the very core of the Earth's energy grid. "We found it," Bumblebee said, his voice grim. But as they approached, a figure stepped out from the shadow. Overlord. The towering Decepticon general stood between them and the device, his glowing red optics locking onto Bumblebee. His massive frame blocked the path, and his armor glistened with power. "You reach too late," Overlord growled, his voice deep and menacing. "Earth will fall, and with it, the Autobots' last hope." Bumblebee's SARS spark pounded in his chest. They were running out of time, and now they had to face one of the most powerful Decepticons ever created. "Get ready," Bumblebee said, his voice low. "This is going to be tough." Overlord's massive frame blocked their path like an impenetrable wall of metal. His glowing optics burned with a fierce intensity, daring them to make a move. The room hummed with the energy of the countdown device behind him, its numbers ticking down like a death sentence. Bumblebee sized up the situation. RC stood at his side, blasters ready. But even she couldn't mask the tension coursing through her frame. Overlord wasn't just any Decepticon. He was one of the most dangerous warriors they had ever faced. If they didn't take him down fast, there would be no time left to stop the device. "You've come all this way for nothing," Overlord growled, his voice echoing ominously through the chamber. "Your world will end, and you will fall with it." Bumblebee didn't waste time with a reply. He fired his plasma cannon, the blast crackling through the air toward Overlord. The Decepticon dodged with shocking speed for his size, his massive arm swinging like a wrecking ball toward Bumblebee. The impact hit hard, sending Bumblebee skidding across the floor. His armor groaned under the force, but he pushed himself back up, determination fueling him. They didn't have time for this fight, but there was no other choice. Ars moved in, her blades gleaming as she slashed at Overlord's legs, hoping to bring the giant down. He batted her away effortlessly, sending her crashing into the wall with a thud. "You are weak, Autobots," Overlord taunted, advancing on Bumblebee. "You always were." Bumblebee's optics flicked toward the countdown device. Time was slipping away. If they didn't do something drastic, Earth was finished, but Overlord wasn't giving them any room to maneuver. "I am not losing this fight," Bumblebee growled, charging forward with everything he had. His fist collided with Overlord's chest, the force reverberating through his arm, but the Decepticon barely flinched. Overlord swung his arm down, intending to crush Bumblebee beneath his weight, but Bumblebee rolled to the side, avoiding the devastating blow by mere inches. He fired his cannon again, aiming for Overlord's chest this time, but the blast only scorched the Decepticon armor. "We need to take out the device," RC shouted, struggling to her feet. "This fight is a distraction." "I know," Bumblebee responded, narrowly dodging another attack from Overlord. His mind raced. There had to be a way to end this quickly, something that could give them an opening. As Overlord lunged again, Bumblebee ducked low, grabbing one of the thick cables connected to the countdown device. With all his strength, he yanked the cable free, sparks flying as it snapped from its socket. The reaction was immediate. The device faltered, and the countdown flickered, but only for a moment. Overlord roared in fury, his massive hands reaching for Bumblebee, but Bumblebee was faster. He leapt onto Overlord's back, grabbing another cable and pulling with everything he had. The device sputtered, and for a brief moment, Bumblebee thought they had a chance. But Overlord wasn't test done, yet he slammed his back against the wall, crushing Bumblebee between the unyielding metal and his own bolt. Pain shot through Bumblebee's sheath frame, his servos straining to hold on. "You think you can stop this?" Overlord growled, his voice thick with malice. "Megatron's plan is flawless. You were too late." Bumblebee gritted his teeth, his optics flickering as he fought to stay conscious. But even as Overlord tightened his grip, a plan began to form in Bumblebee's mind. If they couldn't take Overlord down directly, they could still outsmart him. "Arsene," Bumblebee shouted, his voice strained. "The supports take them out." Arcee blinked, catching on to Bumblebee's sad plan. She raised her blaster and fired at the thick metal supports holding up the structure around them. The first one shattered with a deafening crack, and the ceiling above them groaned under the strain. Overlord hesitated, his optics darting to the ceiling as debris began to fall. It was the opening Bumblebee needed. He twisted free of Overlord's grip and fired his cannon at the second support. The ground beneath them rumbled as the ceiling started to collapse. "This whole place is coming down," Arcee shouted as more debris rained down around them. "We need to move now." Bumblebee didn't hesitate. He darted toward the countdown device, ripping out the remaining cables as fast as he could. The device sputtered, the countdown flickering wildly. Overlord, distracted by the collapsing ceiling, was no longer an immediate threat. But the device still wasn't completely offline. Bumblebee could see the numbers ticking down. 15 minutes left. Wheeljack Bumblebee barked into his comms. "We've each taken out the main device, but the countdown's still active. We need those failsafes disabled now." "We were working on it." Wheeljack's voice crackled back. "Give us 5 more minutes, we're almost there." "We don't all have 5 minutes," Bumblebee muttered, glancing at the collapsing structure around them. "We need to get out of here." He and Enterprise sprinted toward the exit as the building came crashing down behind them. Overlord South's furious roars echoed through the chamber, but Bumblebee didn't look back. There wasn't time to fight him now. They had to trust that Wheeljack could finish the job. They burst through the steel doors just as the entire structure collapsed in on itself. Dust and debris filled the air, but Bumblebee kept moving, his sensors focused on the countdown still ticking in the back of his mind. 10 minutes. Wheeljack status update. Bumblebee called again, his voice sharp with urgency. "We're almost there," Wheeljack replied, the sound of furious typing in the background. "Just one more fail-safe to disable." Bumblebee and Argis regrouped near the edge of the city, the devastation behind them a stark reminder of how close they had come to losing everything, but it wasn't forever yet. Come on, Bumblebee muttered, watching the timer in his HUD. 7 minutes, 6 minutes. "Got it." Wheeljack's soft voice broke through the comms, filled with relief. "All fail-safes disabled. The countdown is neutralized." Bumblebee exhaled a breath. He hadn't realized he was holding good work. "Wheeljack barely made it," Arcee added, her voice shaky with the adrenaline still coursing through her. "I thought we were done for." "We're never done," Bumblebee said, his optics still scanning the horizon. "Not as long as there's something worth fighting for." They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of their narrow victory settling over them. The world was safe for now, but Bumblebee knew this was only one battle in a war that was far from over. As long as there were Decepticons out there, as long as the memory of Megatron lingered, would always be in danger. But today they had won, and that was enough. Bumblebee transformed into his vehicle mode, the sound of his engine cutting through the stillness. RC followed suit, her motorcycle form sleek and ready to move. "Let's head back," Bumblebee said, his voice steady but tired. There's still a lot of work to be done. Together they drove back toward the base, leaving the ruins behind. The countdown had stopped. The world was safe, but Bumblebee knew their fight was far from over. Megatron and his legacy might still loom over them, but as long as the Autobots stood, they would be ready for whatever came next.